Hi everyone, welcome to Gallant IAS. Today I am going to have some discussion of our test series, especially a topic on environment. So this is a test that is conducted as part of our Gallant test series 2024. So my main objective for this discussion to make aspirants aware about how to approach each question while you are attempting the question during the test series. Hopefully, at the end, I think you will get an insight on how to approach in a better way than currently you are going through. Okay, so there are only some selected questions. We will go into that topics. So, just begin. The first question that I am taking here is regarding keystone species. Okay, the question is consider the following statements regarding keystone species. So while you attempt this question, firstly you have to mark out what the important keyword is. Here the keyword is keystone species. So we are marking it out. Then don't go directly into the statement. Just look into the directive word. What is the directive word here? It is correct. So keep in mind, after finding out the keyword, just go to this directive word simultaneously. So the questionnaire is asking or directing us to find the correct statement. Okay, this one is little bit tricky one because this is on the latest option margin of UPSC, where we can't go for a guess. If you are very clarity with the topic, you will reach up to the answer. Okay, so they are asking about the correct statement and they are asking how many statements are correct here. Okay, so when you go to this topic, this keystone species, what is this keystone species? What is the utility of making a species keystone? So this topic mainly comes in the part of what ecosystem and biodiversity. Okay, and in biodiversity, especially the species are kept in the keystone category in order to make the conservation initiative more effective. For example, we are taking tiger as a keystone species. Why? Because tiger plays a huge functional role in that ecosystem. So conserving that species itself conserve the whole biodiversity or ecosystem of that particular region. Okay, so on this background knowledge we are analyzing each statement. So the first statement is keystone species have high functional redundancy. So usually you will have a tendency to have that, okay, high functional. So function is very high, so it would be a positive aspect. But the key one is here redundancy. So what you mean by this redundancy? So the redundancy here means that if this species disappears also, there are some other species that can compensate its function. Okay, that means if a particular species is doing some functional activity in an area, and if that species is removed, there is another species that can compensate for its function. That is known as redundancy, functional redundancy. Actually, in keystone species, what is the main highlight? The main highlight is that the keystone species have certain unique functions that cannot be replaced. Okay, so here it is not high functional redundancy, it is actually low functional redundancy. So the functional activity of that particular species cannot be replaced by any other species. Okay, it is on this background here the keystone species have a low functional redundancy. So when you read the statement, read it carefully, especially in environment and ecology questions. The statements will be very much logically correlative. You should read it very carefully. Okay. The first statement is wrong. Then second, any organism from plants to fungi can be a keystone species. Of course, the statement here is giving a probability can be a keystone species. This all depends upon the environment or ecosystem that species is up to. Okay, so that is a probable statement. It is usually true. Okay, so that statement is true. Then beavers and sea otters are examples of keystone species. That is obviously true. These are both keystone species. So when you study this particular topics on keystone species, keep in mind certain aspects like the significance of this keystone species, the main meaning or definition of this keystone species, and what are its important role in the conservation initiatives. Okay, so this is one regarding keystone species. Now the next question is regarding the functional role of wetlands. Look, this wetland is a hot topic regarding this exam and favorite topic for the examiners from the point of view of ecosystem. Okay, so here it is asking about the primary function of wetland. So when you study this wetland, you have to look up to certain dimension, especially what is mean by this wetland, on what account these wetlands are mainly defined. Okay, then second one is what is the significance of wetland. So what are the main significance, how it is important to ecosystem, on that aspect we have to look into. Okay, so the next one is the laws or regulations which are mainly up to this ecosystem, that means wetland ecosystem. So on this backdrop we can analyze into this question. The question is asking what the primary function of wetland. So you know that wetland has certain functions and they are asking about what are the primary. That means it the function that it itself initiates. So that means no other process is taking upon, but it itself initiates the process. Okay. So the number one is carbon sequestration. Actually, it is a function of wetland, but it is not the primary function of wetland. Okay, it comes somewhat in the secondary stage of this functional activity. So it is a function, but not primary function. So we can eliminate this option. Now look into the third option, oxygen production. Is that a primary function? Okay, actually, this oxygen production is mainly associated with the plants of that ecosystem. It is not primarily related to wetland. Okay, the main plant that is phytoplankton, which is mainly in the aquatic ecosystem, mainly carries out this oxygen production. So it is not the primary function of wetland. It somewhat comes in the secondary aspect. Usually it produces oxygen, that is true one, but it is not the primary activity because it is the phytoplankton which is mainly, that means the green plants which is mainly found in the wetland ecosystem that produces this oxygen. Okay, so this can also be eliminated. The third one, soil erosion control. Of course, it can help in soil erosion control, but it is not its primary role. It is somewhat its main role during the disaster time also. This wetlands plays a crucial role in mitigating the effects, but it is not its function primary function. So only its primary functions comes in this aspect. What is groundwater recharge? So on this background, these wetlands are mainly known as what? Natural sponges. Okay, it absorbs the salty water and absorbs the salts and gives out fresh water. So it is somewhat acting as natural sponges, which is its primary functional role. Okay, so when you look into this wetland, this is almost comes in your topics of niche, that means a unique functional activity of that ecosystem. So this wetland ecosystem has have this unique activity mainly in adaptation and is functional role. Okay, so look in this topic. It is a very good topic that is has been asking frequently for past 2 to 3 years. Read carefully about wetlands. So now let's look into another one important conceptual question. This question I usually every year they ask about environment conferences, and these environment conferences are important. But what students usually do is that they go into the latest current affairs and takes into information from that current affairs. But you should know the timeline of the progress of our environmental evolution of our environmental debate. So on this aspect, one of the important event during that environment debate is Rio Convention. So this Convention, which is famously known as Earth Summit, had opened up a new dimension of environmental protection or conservation. So in this Rio Convention, it, some important decisions were taken out, which was later on carried out in the subsequent stages. So three important conventions were born out of this Rio Convention that every aspirant must know when you go on for this environmental studies. So number one is a convention to fight against climate change. So UN Framework Convention on Climate Change is a correct option here. Number two is a convention again, which is for the conservation of our biological diversity also. That is also correct. And last one and most important and most successful one, that is UN Convention to combat desertification. So all the three above are the outcome of this Rio Convention. So you must know about this Rio Convention. You must know the history of this Rio Convention, how they all nation reached up to that summit in Rio, and why these outcomes were taken out, and how these outcomes are currently going on. So you must have an idea. Okay. So this is also an important topic. Again, I am stressing it is not the current contemporary changes. They will ask you from the base level on how these evolved and what were the important stakeholders or players which led to the formation of this convention, especially Rio Convention. Okay, so next one is an interesting one, a question from extinction. This extinction is a beautiful topic, especially when you study geography. You will learn about this extinction in the initial part of your geological time scale. We have saw here we have faced some extinction, and currently we are also going to face an extinction, a sixth mass extinction. It was actually a previous year question asked by UPSC. So on this backdrop, we are just analyzing this question about extinction. So it is asking about the Holocene extinction is only known mass extinction event that has been primarily driven by activity of single species. So be careful while reading the question. Here the question is asking it is the only mass extinction. If it is the only mass extinction, the statement is actually wrong. But again, the statement is supported by another fact, like primarily driven by activities of single species. That is actually correct. Okay, so this Holocene extinction, which is currently sixth mass extinction, which is carried out by human beings. Okay, Anthropocene event or an event which is carried out by humans. Okay, so this statement is correct. Again, the next statement is asking about what the hallmark or what are the main features of this extinction. One of the hallmarks of Holocene extinction is rapid rate of species loss. That is, of course, a correct statement that there will be a loss of species. Asking about correct, both statements are correct. So, see, both 1, 2 are correct here. Okay. Okay. Next is an important concept which is regularly asked in UPSC, a topic from pollution. Okay. Here the pollution is a topic known as eutrophication, which comes from the topic of aquatic pollution. So let's read the question carefully. The question is asking like, eutrophication is a process where water bodies become enriched with nutrients leading to, then the options are given. Okay, so we have to analyze each and every option. So when you approach this question, you know that eutrophication is what? It is something, a negative event that is happening in that ecosystem. So of course, whatever the outcome that comes out of it is mostly or most probably be negative. Okay, so on this logical aspect, we will look into what are the important negative events written in the options. First one, increased dissolved oxygen levels and enhanced aquatic life. So, is it an increased dissolved oxygen level and enhanced aquatic life? Then, of course, it is a positive statement, but it does not correlate to the above assertion. So, we can obviously eliminate this. So, this is a wrong assertion that is given. Okay, moving to the next one, decreased plant growth and aquatic biodiversity. Of course, we will think that there will be less chance for life to sustain, but you must know the process. You must have some idea about the process of eutrophication. The process itself is what increased growth of algae or phytoplankton that leads to what decreased dissolved oxygen. So it is not decreased plant growth, it is increased plant growth which leads to depletion in the oxygen level. Why there is an increase in plant growth? Due to increased availability of nutrients. So this statement can also be eliminated. Now just move to the last statement, and improved water quality and reduced algal bloom. So this is of course a positive statement, an improved water quality and reduced algal bloom. Of course, this does not logically correlate to the assertion. Okay, so this of course won't be the answer. Then the last one, the accumulation of toxic substance in the water. Of course, this is the correct answer because eutrophication of course leads to what? Accumulation of toxic substance, and it is logically correct answer. Okay, so this is the way where you have to logically analyze some questions in the environment topic when you are given some question regarding the effects of some event. Okay, so moving to another one question. Let's look into the latest trend of question and assertion, not assertion, statement type question. Okay, so this is a latest type of questions approach of UPSC. So the question, you must read the question carefully here. Okay, the question is asking about an event known as bioremediation. So one of the approach for this type of question is that you must look into this option. What this option is saying? First option is saying that if both statements are correct and statement 2 is correct explanation of statement 1, that is statement 2 is actually validating statement 1. What is the second option? Both are correct, but statement 2 is not validating statement 1. Of course, the last two statements say that first statement is correct, second is incorrect, first statement is incorrect, second is correct. Okay, So when you get this question, your first approach should be that you have to find whether either one of it is wrong or not. So we will read into this question. Bacteria and fungi or plants can be used to detoxify, remove contaminants as part of bioremediation. Of course, it is bioremediation. That means biological organism is used to remove it. Okay, remove this pollutants. Of course, bacteria, fungi, plants can be. So there is a probability enhancer. So it can be used. Okay, so it is a correct statement. Again, the second statement, bioremediation is used for organic pollutant cleanup as well as for heavy metal contamination remediation. Of course, it is the main definition of bioremediation. So both statements are correct. So we can eliminate C and D. But our problem is not solved yet. You must look into the correlation. Look, whether the second statement is reasoning out the first statement. No, because the second statement is actually the definition, and this second statement occurs because of the main reason of the first. That means the activity of bacteria and fungi leads to the event known as or process known as bioremediation. Okay, so actually this is the reason, and this should have been the assertion. So it is given in the opposite direction. So the correct answer here is what statement B. That both are correct, but statement 2 is not explaining the statement 1. So this should be your approach for what statement question. Okay. So now just look into another aspect, that is an important aspect again from the topic of pollution. This is an important topic, that is biological organic demand. Sorry, biological oxygen demand. Okay, so again we are looking to the directive word, which is the directive word that is correct. So they are asking which is the correct statement in this above given statement, which one is correct. So this is somewhat an easy question if you know the concept well. So the question is asking, the biological oxygen demand is a measure of the amount of dissolved oxygen required by microorganisms to break down organic matter in water. Okay, so is that correct? Of course, it is correct because it is a main definition of biological oxygen demand. But here you have to have a catch one, that is break down the organic matter. So usually it is the amount of oxygen that is required to break down the organic matter. Okay. Higher BOD levels indicate cleaner water quality. So look, if what happens if there is a higher BOD level? Higher BOD level indicates that there is a huge demand of oxygen. That is, we need oxygen more. So it is indicating what there is in the condition of that ecosystem is very poor and it requires more oxygen. So it is does not indicate a cleaner water, but it indicates a polluted water and it is of poor water quality. Okay, so you should have a thorough understanding on this concept. Then it is an easy question for you. So the correct answer here is A, one only. Okay, so we have discussed about some different patterns of questions here. So again, we will look into another latest trend question of statement type. Again, I am telling, when you look into the statement, first you have to check whether the two statements are correct or not. Okay, here the question is regarding ecological succession. Look at this, ecological succession is one of the important principle of ecology. That is an important principle of ecological stability, which leads to an ecological stability. This ecological succession. So let's read the statement. Ecological succession always begins with pioneer species that are shade tolerant and long lived. Okay, so you have to read it very carefully. So it is asking that ecological succession always. So it is a statement that asserting that it a very strong assertion is happening there that it begins with pioneer species. That is correct, because whatever the species that comes there is known as pioneer species, but it should be shade tolerant and long lived. So that is not correct, because there are some species that comes which are not shade tolerant but can be an pioneer species. For example, when we look into the case of volcanic eruption, there are some species that can survive in the lava and this but heavy temperature condition. Okay, so it is not necessary that it by pioneer species should always be shade tolerant. So this statement itself wrong. So if this statement itself wrong indicates that there is we can directly go to the answer. What is D? Statement 1 is incorrect, but statement 2 is correct. But for our curiosity, we will look into the second statement. Primary succession occurs on bare, correct, while secondary succession occurs in area which previously established ecosystem have been disturbed. This is a correct statement, and it is defining what is primary succession and secondary succession. So what I am trying to explain you the approach of this type of question. So if a single statement itself you can eliminate, you can directly come to the answer. Okay. So have a thorough understanding. Whatever what is required is that you should have a good understanding of these type of concepts in environment and ecology. Okay. Again, we will move into one more question, and this one is an important concept that is in ecology, that is ecological niche. What is the directive word here? Correct. Okay. So the question is asking, with reference to ecological niche, consider the following statement. And what is asking, which is the correct statement in the given question. So we look into each statement one by one. An ecological niche refers to the physical location of an organism lives. Look, what is the significance of this ecological niche? It mainly exemplifies what the functional role played by a species. So it is a functional activity that is mainly highlighted here, not physical location. Okay. So the first statement itself is wrong. Then we move to the second statement. So two species with overlapping ecological niche cannot coexist in the same habitat. Of course, the general condition is that they cannot coexist. That because there will be stiff competition and one of the species will be eliminated. But there are certain situations where there will be a even known as resource partitioning. Okay, it is mainly due to this resource partitioning effect these two species can coexist, not cannot, can coexist. And how these resource partitions can occur? It can occur in both ways, both natural ways and man-made ways. Natural ways, there will be some barriers like formation of hills or flowing of rivers, which partitions this resource in the two different directions. Okay, this helps the species to coexist each other. So two species with overlapping ecological niche cannot coexist in the same habitat is actually a wrong statement, and we can reach up to the conclusion that the answer here is B, neither one nor two. Okay. So again, when you go into this concept of ecological niche, have a thorough understanding of, of what is this ecological niche, how it is manifested in the environment by the species, and how it is helping to maintain the stability in that ecosystem. Okay. So this is what some questions we have discussed so far. So I think that you have some idea on how to approach on the questions regarding the environment questions. So practice thoroughly and keep it on the right approach. A right approach is very much necessary to reach up to the correct answer. So don't make the same mistake again and again. Just understand the concept clearly and have a good approach before reaching up to the answers. Hopefully we will come again with some other question in the coming session. So goodbye for right now. Thank you so much.